Sorry, everybody. There we go. That's a little bit better. Good morning, everybody. This is Backyard Gardener. Just starting out this morning. Gonna have a very quick live. I'm gonna pull my chat up so that I can see what's going on. But I hope everybody is having a wonderful day. Let's see, getting to the live. Now I see why you need that filter at first when you first come on live, because it's so hard and difficult to actually set everything up. Once you press that button, that's where you have to set things up. But good morning, Melanie, the moderator, Garden of Eden. Hello, good morning. Thank you for being here. Lazy Liz Life. Hello, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I am going to get started. I'm trying to set everything up. And once I do that,
there's one
we
cause
can
of
go
aging
ahead and get this going. All right. So how was everybody's weekend? Mine was pretty, it was pretty good. I'm not into those fireworks and stuff. It really makes my nerves bad. But other than that, it is pretty good, a pretty good weekend. I am very thankful that it is over, because I don't have to deal with all that noise. Here they have been popping those firecrackers, I believe, since the beginning of June. And I just think that's crazy that they will sell them so early. It's all about marketing. Sky Jean, hello. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. Miss Farola, hello. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you as well. We're going to get started. I'm not going to be on here long at all. I'm going to try. Miss Suzette, hello. Thank you for coming in. I'm going to try to do this. Sexy Too Much For You Coleman, hello. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. I'm going to get through this. We're going to talk about heat. Right now, it is very hot. If it's hot in my state, and I'm in Michigan in the north, I know it is probably scorching where you guys live if you are in the south. So we have to be able to get through this. Pandy Hair Care, hello, thank you for coming in. But we want to be able to not only get our plants through this, we want to be able to get ourselves through this. Dealing with heat can be a challenge for a lot of us. It's been a challenge for me, not so much this year, but previous. So far I'm doing pretty good this year with the heat, but previous years it has really been a challenge. So we have to be careful, definitely, for sure. Do I grow? I have a question. Do you grow anything in the shade? I do. Right now, not full shade. No, I don't. Not anything full shade. But right now, partial shade. I have some of my string beans that I'm growing. And I'm doing an experiment on that. When I say partial shade, I mean that it doesn't get as much sunlight as the rest of the garden does. So they're up against the house, so it's shaded. So it might get 6 hours of sunlight opposed to the whole garden getting 10, 12 hours of sunlight. So yes, I do. Um, in Florida, it's crazy hot. I can imagine that it is, Liz, hot in Florida. California too. Miss Terrell, hello, how are you? Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. Miss Terrell, for the longest, I did not know you were in Michigan, if I'm correct, right? So that's pretty cool to have a person here that's in Michigan as well. So yeah, you definitely have to be careful out in this garden right now. Even if you're not a gardener, if you work outside, you have to be careful. And one of the things that we have to make sure, and I'm going to express this before we start talking about it, and I'm going to emphasize this after the fact. We have to stay hydrated. And I'm not talking about with pop. I'm not talking about with sweet, juicy juices, all of that stuff. No, we have to stay hydrated with things that's going to keep us hydrated. And the best thing that I could say is to get you some bottled water. The wrong thing to do is to drink ice cold water when you out there in that sun. Just the normal temperature water will be great. To keep your body hydrated and to keep you going. That hydration is so important because I'm telling you, that sun will just suck all the energy out of you and it will suck all the energy out of your plants. Now, can you see the two relations that we're having here? Plants, it'll suck the energy out. They get all wilted and start to bog down. When we're dehydrated and we need water, what do? We lose our energy. We're bogged down. So plant life and human life, there is somewhat of a similarity. Only plant does not bleed or have the organisms that we have. So if your plants is thirsty and out there, you can kind of communicate with your plants to see or look at your plant and see exactly what your plant needs to get pepped back up. If you was all dried up and linked over, first thing you would do is go get you a drink. It's time to water. GG Gluten Free, hello. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. Melanie, the moderator, thank you for coming in. If I haven't said it already, I appreciate you. Hostas grows very well in shade. Our house, I used to grow a lot of hostas, the Big Daddy hostas and other different varieties, and they actually do pretty good in shade. I fell back a little bit on growing my hostas because I was running out of space, so I started digging them up, replanting them, and giving them away to people. So I still have a few, and I put them around some of my other properties. I still have a few though, but hostas does well in shaded areas. Actually, to me, I think they thrive more in shaded areas than they do sunny areas or even semi-sunny areas. So if you need a place where you got a big house and you want a little beautification over there, hostas does very well. Short bus pull up, hello. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. I hope all is well. I appreciate you being here. We're going to get right into it, guys. Let's see. Protecting our garden from the heat. One of the things that we need to do is water. Now, water your garden early in the morning is the best time before that peak sun comes out. Like right now, it is 12 o'clock here. It wouldn't be a good time for me to water my garden because probably around 1 o'clock, that's when we're going to hit that 94 degrees and that full strength sun is going to come out. If I was going to water my garden, I should have probably been out there maybe like 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock was 10 is pushing it, but 10 would have been okay. 12 o'clock, that's the middle of your day. That's the peak hour that sun is coming up at full strength. So you want to make sure, that you get out there early enough to water your garden. Remember, this is a dedication thing when you're gardening. I don't care if you're gardening vegetables or you're just doing plants around your yard. You have to be dedicated to it because it's going to require a lot of your attention in the dedicating process for you to have a thriving garden. So you got to get out there early and water, or you get out there in the evening and water. Now, when I say evening, a lot of people make this mistake. They'll get out there and they'll start to garden toward 12 o'clock. Toward 9 o'clock. Well, the sun goes down here at 9:15. You don't really want to go that late and going into garden. Missy, hello. Thank you for being here. If I'm missing anybody, hello. You don't really want to wait when it's dark to start watering your garden, because then your garden is you're setting your garden up to get diseases, and you're setting your garden up to get powdery mildew issues and all kind of fungal issues, because your garden is going to be wet all night. There's nothing to really, soak that water up. And that's not the goal that you want. You don't want your garden to be soppy wet like that all night. So I would say maybe about 7 o'clock in the evening, depending on where you at. 8 o'clock might be the latest that I will go out there and try to water my garden. So please keep that in mind. You don't want to water too late in the evening as well, because you don't want to set up different type of issues. One of the things that we can use to stay on top of our watering in the garden is a drip irrigation system. Drip irrigation, the whole word just sounds expensive. Oh, drip irrigation, that sounds expensive and complicated. It's actually not expensive at all. A lot of the things that I do around here on my property, I'll see it and I'll try to modify it and do it myself on a cheaper level, because to call somebody out to put a professional sprinkler system in, the thing that I learned about that is that they have to come back out every year, 2 times a year, to turn your system on, and they come back out to turn your system off, to blow your lines out. They have a special little tank or something that blows the air out of your lines so that your lines don't freeze up over the winter. It's complicated when I just can pay my plumber to put me another water spigot toward the back of the house, go out to Home Depot or Lowe's and get me some poly piping, dig a trench from my garden, from the back of my house all the way to the orchard, which is about 60 feet out, and basically extending my water source out there. The trench is only digged about 8 feet down underground. Now in Michigan, our ground freezes. You got to be almost 4 feet deep for your pipes not to freeze. But I also can go to, so how do I get the water out of the line every year? I have a friend down the street that has all type of air tanks. Or I can go to Harbor Freight and buy one of those pancake air tanks with so many PSIs and blow my own line out every winter, tap them off, and I'm good. Just disconnect it from the spigot. And that's been working pretty good for me. And I think that project only cost me maybe about $50 altogether. So a lot of things we have to not be so intimidated by it and try to do them ourselves and think of better ways to do it. The goal in gardening is to work smart, not hard. Because if you work too hard, you're going to burn yourself out and you're not going to want to do it again because you feel like it's not worth it. So Irrigation systems are good. Home Depot and Lowe's have different varieties of irrigation system. The Diggs irrigation system for a small garden is like $19.99, guys. I promise you. It comes with all the little fittings and bibs, and then if you need extra, they sell the different parts separately. It's easy to put together. I put one together in my yard some years back. Then you can get a timer. A lot of people say, well, how do you garden going out of town? Put your stuff on a timer. You hook the timer up. It gives you Monday through Sunday. It gives you the time that you want this water valve to kick on and how long you want it to kick on. And it also has a bypass where if it happens to rain that day, you can bypass that day and go to the next day because you don't want to water your garden if it's already raining. It's a waste of money. So irrigation is a very good way to stay on top of watering your garden, dealing with the heat. You don't even have to go out there. When you do go out there, you want to go out there and inspect. You want to make sure that your irrigation is working properly, if it's hitting all the spots, if it's getting enough water to your garden. And that takes less time than it would to sit there and water my garden. If you would believe, it takes me 35 minutes to water my whole garden plus the orchard. 35 minutes, that's crazy. 35 minutes in the heat can be between a dang on heat stroke if you out there at the wrong time. So every day that I go out there, I'm out there for 35 minutes. And the reason why it takes me 35 minutes is because I want to make sure that I'm giving good everything a good watering, a good soaking. I want to make sure that my roots is taking up a lot of that water and it's not just going from the top of my pot or the top of my bed straight out. I want to give it a minute to saturate that soil so that roots can start to take up that moisture and feed that plant, okay? Especially in containers. You have to be super careful and vigilant that you're getting your plant enough water. Another one of the things that we should avoid, now that's a two-edged sword with that water. You don't want to overwater your plant. Now some of us may feel like, okay, well, you know what? I went out there yesterday. I forgot to go out there the day before, so I'm going to give it extra water this time. That's not always the best way to do it. If you go out there and your plant is limped down, all you basically have to do, if it haven't been too long, is give that plant some water, because my tomato plants will start to wilt, and I water them every day, but just because that particular day it was so hot, they just started to wilt a little bit, and I make sure that I give them enough water. So make sure that you don't overwater your plant because you don't want to have a root rot problem. A lot of us sometimes will put the saucers up under, you know what I'm saying when I say saucers, up under our pots, and when we water them, the saucer will catch that extra water. That's good too. But you got to understand that your fertilizer and all that is just hovering in there. If that plant have not uptake that water, and mostly in potting soil, it'll wick the water back up to the soil. If that potting soil have not wicked that water back up within so many, I would say 40 minutes, pour the rest of it off. Because you just got sitting water. And then what do sitting water is a breeding ground for? Mosquitoes. And they've been snatching my soul all, all summer. And it just started. So remember that as well. Mulching. Mulching is another way to make sure that you're retaining moisture in your garden. You don't have to work as hard. If you go out there and you buy you a bag of mulch, I'm telling you, you will definitely definitely not be disappointed. I hate mosquitoes too. Um, they I whelp up real bad when they bite me. So mulching is something that you want to do. Always protect your garden with mulch, because you're protecting your roots as well. Sometimes our roots start to rise to the surface depending on different plants and trees. And you want to make sure those roots are covered and protected on your fruit trees or on your different type of plants. I'm noticing on my blueberry trees, my roots like to rise to the surface. So I want to keep those protected because I don't want anything or the sun burning those roots, because those roots are supposed to be underground. So mulching is a very good thing to do. Now with using mulch, you want to use at least no less than 2 inches. 3 or 4 is great. The thicker, the better, because that's going to make sure that it keeps that soil temperature right for you, and it's going to make sure that it retains that moisture. P. Smith, hello, how are you? Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. All right, so you have to protect the soil nutrients from leaching out on a regular, and the temperature of your soil bed. And mulching is going to kind of help that. Now your nutrients is going to leach out if you're growing in a container anyway. If you're growing in a raised bed, it'll leach, but it'll still be in the soil somewhere down in the soil because your raised bed is open at the bottom. Okay? So remember, 2 to 3 inches or more, or organic mulch. Pine needle, pine bark, straw, grass clippings, leaves, or you can go and buy some mulch. The only mulch that I will buy to put inside of my um, garden bed and garden pots will be like pine bark or some type of mulch that's not treated with that color. Cypress is all natural, so I might get a bag of cypress and use that, but I would never put that color mulch inside my bed. I put it on the ground out there because most of my stuff is contained in containers. But as far as inside the bed, nope, go with an all natural type product, and organic, because that's your food is there. So you water in that garden every day and you got that pretty red mulch. That pretty red mulch is leaking right into the roots of your plant, and it's uptaking all that dye too. So we don't know what we're putting in our body. So we have to be careful with what type of mulch we get. But mulching is definitely a great way to keep your garden, to retain the most moisture in your garden. Provide essential shade. Some of us are growing these big, beautiful okra plants. Some of us are growing big, tall tomato plants. If you have when you start planting those things, think about, because your tomatoes and your okra is going to love that sun. So when you plant those things, think about things that you can companion plant with them to help shade some of those um, in your garden. If you want to put, well, eggplants love sun too. So you think about the smaller things that you see that's getting burnt up and all of that, and be like, hey, if you're and this is the one thing that I love about container gardening. If I have a bed of okra and I have a container of something else that's struggling in that sun, I can take that container over to that okra and let that provide natural shade, because your okra plant gets 4 or 5, 6, and sometimes your tomato plant as well will get pretty tall, depending on the variety that you're growing. So that will also help as well. If you have a tree in your yard, um, that also helps with providing shade, filtered shade, not full shade where it's completely black. but you have filter shade that will come through some of the leaves of that shade tree. And it don't have to be your shade tree. It could be your neighbor's shade tree. It could be a shade tree that's way behind you. That area will be great because you have to know how much light. Study your yard to know how much light goes in what area. This is a good thing to know as far as putting those plants in there. Also, plant things that require a lot of sun. If your whole yard is just full of sun and there's no shade, plant things that require sun. Eggplants love sun. Pepper plants love sun. Tomatoes, some tomatoes, because I'm finding one of my tomatoes don't like that sun. My sweet 100s is going through something with the sun. Tomatoes, corn loves sun. Corn is another good shade plant to help kind of shade the garden because you planting stuff in layers with the tallest thing in the back to block the sun, and then something smaller, and then something smaller. That helps provide shade or give your plants a sun break. On the back of these seed packets, it will also tell you a lot about where to plant your plants at. If they require full sun, if they require partial sun, if they require shade. It's important to read it. Even if it's not a vegetable plant, it could be a flower. It'll also tell you the same thing. When you pull those little tags out those plants, it'll tell you what it requires. Pay attention to those things so that you can be successful and that your plant is thriving in the garden. Okay? Let's see. Hold on one second. If I missed anybody that came in, hello, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. We got one more thing. We provided the essential shade in the extreme heat. And we also have chosen the plants that like that full sun. Sweet potatoes love full sun. Pepper plants love that heat. They do very well in heat. Actually, they thrive the best when it's hot. Okra, cucumbers, corn, eggplant, beans, tomatoes, all these things love full sun. Now, what about the most important thing or asset out in your garden, which is you? You have to stay, one, hydrated. Use safety in the garden. I got a big old hat that I'll put on with a big brim. It's one of those sun hats. It's for gardening, and it protects all of this. Shades all my shoulders and all of that. So it's pretty much protecting my head and the upper part of my body. It might look a little crazy out there, or it might not be the most stylish thing that you have going on. But I'm telling you, if you go out there and get in that garden and that sun is beaming down on your scalp, you're going to be thankful that you got that hat on. So get your garden hat. They have them for men, they have them for women, they even have them for kids. Long sleeve shirts. Now I know you probably like, it's 100 degrees. Who's going to put on a long sleeve shirt? I'll do it. I will do it. And it's not so much that it's going to make you hot. It's going to protect your skin from all those sun rays that's coming through. And it's not that bad. Depending on the type of shirt you have, it's really not that bad. So you might want to consider that as well. Work when the sun goes down. Work early in the morning before the peak hour of the sun comes up. Because if it's 96 degrees outside, can you imagine what the heat index is? It's even hotter. You don't want to pass out there. And if you out in the garden, no matter if it's evening or morning and you live with someone, let that person know that you out there in the garden. Sometimes the craziest stuff happen in the garden. We can run into different rodents, snakes. We can run into tripping over a rake or stepping on something to hurt ourselves. You want to have your phone on you and make sure that you can call in and say, hey, I done fell, or make sure there's somebody out there checking for you, that you're out in the garden. Now that I have bees, and not that my bees are aggressive so far, but every time I go back there into that hive, I let my sons know I'm finna go into the hive, and one of my grandkids come out there with me, just to sit in case I get in trouble out there. Somebody can run and get me some help. So make sure that you definitely let people know that you out there in the garden, and slow down. You ain't got to like hurry up and rush. Let me hurry up and get this done because it's hot. That's the worst thing you can do because you're burning more energy. And just take it a little bit at a time. You might not be able to weed, if that's what you out there doing, your whole section of the garden that day. Save a little bit for tomorrow. Don't try to do it all in one day and stay out there hours on hours on hours, because that's going to mess you up as too. Wear light clothing. Apply sunscreen. Put some sunscreen on. Protect your skin. Protect yourself. Because the most important thing in the garden is basically you. Because without you, your garden is not going to thrive at all. So that's all I have. Any questions, Nicole? Hello, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. You have the opposite problem. I'm in Newfoundland, Canada, and it's been chilly and rainy for a week and a half now. Yeah. I have a couple of people that has talked to me that are over in Canada, and the season is short there, but look, I feel like this. Find out how long your season is. Canada, you still can grow stuff like beets, beans, things like that. Does only take 55 to 45 days. If you only have a couple of months for your growth season, and the way that you can manipulate that, Nicole, is start your season indoors, so that when you do have those 2 months, you already got 1 month of growth going on, and when you transplant it outside, you're ahead of the game. So it's really hard in Canada to start from seed because it's so cold. But there's people that's in Alaska that's growing food, and Alaska has a very, very short month. But you know how they're doing it? They're doing it away from Ontario, Canada. It takes me literally 15 minutes to get on the freeway, shoot across the bridge or through the tunnel, and I'm in Canada. So it's different parts of Canada that are super cold, and then there's different parts, just like Texas. You have certain parts of Texas that's extremely hot, and then you have other parts of Texas that's not. Texas is a big state. I thank you guys for coming in. I appreciate you. Where am I? Oh, that's talking to Miss Farola. I definitely appreciate you guys coming in. I am about to go out here in this garden. I was supposed to trim my tomato plant suckers off, and I didn't get to it yesterday, but today I will get to it. And I think what I'm going to do, the beautiful thing about growing in containers, is I can lift that container up, take it to a shady area, do all my trimming, and put it back in that sun. So that's something you want to think about, but it is some difficulties growing in containers as well. Buffering, I'm buffering, okay. Ooh, don't want to do that. So that's all I got for you. This is your backyard gardener. I appreciate you guys coming in, and happy gardening, everybody. See you in the next video. Stay safe.